Hey guys, what's up? Ross here from Consolidata. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to set it up in your Go High Level and in your Consolidata account. So that way, when a lead comes through, they get a text message basically trying to get them on a phone call. And if they're willing to accept the phone call, you move them here so that way you can live transfer them to your clients. And if they don't want the phone call, then you can let your AI bot qualify them. Now, here's the reason why we want to try to get them on the phone. If you can get them actually on a phone call, it has more value to your customers and the conversion rate goes up. For instance, let's say you were dealing with a personal injury attorney. Setting appointments for them is fine, but a live transfer is better because you don't have no-shows. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start with text to get them to respond, to get them to acknowledge that, yes, they received a phone or they inquired on a lead form. And then what you do is you try to get them to agree to a phone call, which is where you're going to qualify them on the phone call. And then you live transfer, say, to the attorney, if we're just using personal injury as a use case here. Now, if they don't want a phone call, then we're going to move them into qualifying them through a text AI bot. Now, I am a fan of using AI for so many things, but I am also not a fan of the inconsistency of trying to use it for your initial outbound message. So what I mean is when a lead submits a form, I know that there are platforms out there where the AI bot does the initial outreach. I don't like that because it lowers your conversion rate. I want to be able to split test and say, hey, if I say these words in this sentence versus these words, I get a 40% versus a 60% conversion rate. Where AI has value is when it can come back and naturally talk to someone and make them feel as if they're actually having an interaction with your company. That's where the value of AI is. So you shouldn't even be using tokens on something that lowers your conversion rate. So the reason I say that is because our initial outreach message via SMS is not AI. You don't need it. It's pointless to even use it. So let's go over into our Go High Level account, and I'm going to show you basically the 4 different workflows that are very simple that you need to set up. The first one here is going to basically be when a customer submits a form or whatever. Mine is customer replied. So that way I could just text it in to set up the trigger. Now you're going to want to make sure that you turn allow for reentry off. I'm leaving mine on because I've already been testing it. So if I turn it off, the demo here won't work to show you how it works. So when a customer submits a form or becomes a lead, you send them a text message. Now I'll show you what this one says. It says, hey, this is Ross from Law for Arizona. I just got your accident inquiry. Can I call quick? You see, it's very quick and short. I say who I am. Now, it's great if you're like in the legal business, if you could be like, hey, this is attorney Ross. Oof, that's going to grab their attention. Now, you don't want them in this initial message to think it's not the human. You don't want them to think it's an automation. So it needs to feel almost human-like, short, snappy, quick. And the reason for that is going to be, you'll see here on this next step. So you have that initial message that just goes out. Now I have 2 workflows. One is so that way if the intent is yes, it's okay that they can. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. They're going a little crazy. And the other one is if they say no. So let's take a look at first at the no, just so that way you guys know how that would go. If they say no, they don't want to call. The way I have it set up is they replied to this workflow. The intent type is no. And if that's the case, I simply just add a tag, doesn't want to talk. That's all this workflow does. Now, I am a big fan of trying to make it so that way these workflows are not super complicated. So that way if something breaks, we know what to look for. So now what'll happen is if they say no, then I'm going to send them to my AI text bot, which you guys know how to build. If you don't, go ahead and take a look at the recordings of it. And then what would happen is you would just set up a workflow that if a customer replies and they have the tag doesn't want to talk, that your AI bot continues the conversation. Only thing I would say there is in that, make sure that in your prompt for that AI bot, that you say something like, don't start the conversation over. The reason that you're even responding is because the person doesn't want a phone call, and like make it so that way the AI bot doesn't try to like restart a conversation. You can do that in the prompt. You want it to just feel like, oh, okay, no problem. Well, I'll just continue to text here, and then you start qualifying them, asking them the questions. You could just literally go watch our videos on how to build AI bots, and that part's fine. So that is if they don't want to talk. But let's just focus on if they do want to talk. If the intent is yes, then what we're going to do is set up a simple workflow. In the text message says here, I put mine as, okay, calling now. Just so you know, when my system calls, it asks you a few questions before it patches you through to me. It only takes like 60 seconds though. Talk soon. And then we webhook it into our campaign in Consolidated Voice Bots, which I'm going to show you here in just a second how to set up. So what we're doing is we're kind of like letting them know that the system is going to call them. So they're not going to be shocked when a bot answers the phone for them. But remember how I said we want them to feel like it's a human texting? That's because on the other side, we want them to feel like, hey, I'm about to talk to a real person. That's going to pull them through the qualification process. So now what we're going to do is go over here and set up a campaign. And I do want to show you how I set my agent up first. So we're going to look at this one here. I put the name of the agent, Roscoe Pico Train. It says here, qualify leads for personal injury attorneys. Agent greeting is, hey, this is Gus from Law for Arizona. Attorney Ross is waiting to speak to you. Can I ask you just a few questions before I patch you through to him? So you see, what I'm really doing here is I am going ahead and emphasizing and trying to build off of Ross is on the other side. So now I put in here, your name is Roscoe, you're a law for Arizona, your job is to qualify. I should probably change this to Gus because that's actually what the real name that I put on here was. Here's the rule for conversations. Every 3 to 5 seconds, add this, that, blah, 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 blah. You can take those out, but I put like or to sound more human-like. So then I put basically here, and then I said if they were not at fault and the accident is under 2 years old, tell them not to hang up because you're going to transfer them and I'm actually going to change here to Attorney Ross just to make it sound more, and then do not make the transfer until they say okay and acknowledge you. Now, if you append the GHL prompt, if you want, you could actually be updating the custom fields inside of Go High Level with their answers as they're speaking them. I'll make that in another video because it's getting late and I'm tired. I'm just excited to show you guys how this works because you have to actually have the custom fields built in. So let's go ahead and go through this. I'm going to send a quick text message to myself. Oh, wait, I have to show you something real quick. Once you do this, you need to set up your campaign. And in your campaign, you set your dates, this and that, but make sure you choose outbound. And then you got to set the right time frames for your campaign. So once I do this, now I have a webhook right here. I can copy this. That's the webhook that I add here. And I don't need to put in any custom data. And as soon as I call that webhook, it's going to add me to that campaign, which means it's going to call me within about 30 to 40 seconds. So let's go ahead, open up this conversation again. Okay, so now let me show you through the flow here, because the problem is remember when I said earlier that you can't allow for reentry? It's because the second workflow will start responding before the workflow already has happened because you've already been through that workflow. So I just want to show you here. I sent this message, hey, I was in an accident. But hey, this is Ross from Law, Arizona. I just got your inquiry. Oh, actually, I was restarting it here. Can I call quick? Sure. Okay, call it. This message here, I was just trying to trigger it. This would be like, let's say a lead form came in. Hey, this is Ross from Law for Arizona. I got your accident inquiry. Can I call quick? Sure. Okay, calling now. Just so you know, when my system calls, It asks you a few questions before it patches you through to me. It only takes like 60 seconds though. Talk soon. Then what it did was it called the webhook, which sent them into, you can see here in the execution logs, sent them into our workflow. Our workflow then put us into our campaign. Let's just pull me up here, right here, and I got a phone call. Now I want to show you what that phone call was like. I'm just going to call that number back. So it might not sound like it's making a lot of sense because it should have been calling me, but we'll just pretend that it's calling me. So let's go ahead and go with that.
Hey, this is Gus from Law for Arizona. Attorney Ross is waiting to speak to you. Can I just ask you a few questions before I patch you through to him?
Yeah, no problem.
Great. Thank you. Can you give me a general overview of the car accident you were involved in? What exactly happened?
Yeah, basically I was in my motorcycle or on my motorcycle and I was driving down the road and a car rear-ended me.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That sounds really scary. Were you at fault at all in the accident?
No, I was not.
All right, that's important to know. Was there a police report filed for the accident?
Yes, there was.
Okay, good to know. Did you go to the hospital after the accident?
Yes, I did, and I suffered a few broken bones.
I'm really sorry to hear about your injury. That must have been really tough. How long ago did this accident happen?
2 months ago.
Thank you for sharing that with me. It sounds like you have a strong case. Please don't hang up. I'm going to transfer you to an attorney who can help you further. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, what's the attorney's name?
The attorney's name is Ross. He'll be able to assist you with all the details and guide you through the next step. So if you're ready, I'll transfer you now. Is that all right?
Yep, that's fine. So then the transfer occurs. So this is going to be incredible for you guys because I used to have an agency with like 50 people on it. And it was like they were all calling, all these Filipino callers and leads would come in. And the reality is that you can execute the same thing utilizing this. So what's cool is now you can track it as well because as you're performing these live transfers inside of it, you could have it update a custom field that says live transferred made. If you've been learning, if you look at the GHL append in there, and I can make another video on that later. And now with that, you could then track how many live transfers were actually made to your clients. So I wanted to make this little mini course here for you. I know it's not a real long video, but I wanted you guys to have an idea on how you can do this. Now, if they didn't want to take the phone call, what we would have done is just added that tag and then continued the conversation with the AI bot to try to qualify them there. But getting them on the phone is better because you're going to be able to charge more and have a higher conversion rate. Anyways, thanks, guys. Have a great day.